Hey guys, what's up? I'm joined by Judge Jamison from the 10th District Appellate Courts. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today? You're out here, you've joined us, our canvassing stuff, yeah. What brings you out here?
Well, I came to talk about civic engagement and making sure that everyone gets registered to vote and participates in the system. And please get registered before February the 20th for the primary if you want to vote. Voting does begin on February 21st for the early vote, and the primary is March 19th.
Do you ever talk to young people when it comes to getting them involved politically? Sure.
Absolutely. I have several mentees that come through the court. I've had high school when I was in the domestic relations and juvenile court. Now I'm getting college and law school. So I have always got mentees around. I have 3 right now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm curious because one of the things that we talk about a lot, we spoke a little bit off camera, I do online political content, and it's really hard to get young people to feel like they want to get engaged, really in any political level, but especially at the local level. Is there like a thing that you say that like gets people to...
I think listening is really imperative. Sometimes we think we know what people want, but we really don't if we don't ask them. For young people, they're very civic minded. Some of them are very civic or social justice conscious. So you have to talk about the things that are important to them. That might be global warming, that might be social justice around housing. It might be the fact that law school loans are so expensive or college loans are expensive. It might be different things that engage them, but I think it's imperative that we ask them, what is it that is really important to you?
So you've spent a long time now working your way through a lot of different parts of the legal system, and now you're a judge. If there are younger people that want to get engaged with the system at some point, what is the best like entry point for them? Like if I want to be involved on a local level, where should I go?
Well, that depends on what you want to do. Do you want to be involved in campaigns? Do you want to be involved in being a mentor to someone that's in the detention facility as a juvenile? What is your passion? Is it social work? There's different routes to get into the system. In all the courts and the trial courts, you have places for social work. We have specialized dockets where they're dealing with trauma-informed care for those individuals that are on probation or coming through the justice system to go into diversion programs. So it depends on what is your area of focus. You can enter in a lot of different areas. You might even want to be an intervention specialist at an elementary school dealing with elementary students. I was part of a study that they did on disparate impact of discipline on black girls in school called Push Out, the criminalization of black girls in school, with Dr. Monique Morris, where we gathered data, and actually she interviewed students to see how they felt about school, what the discipline was. So there's a lot of different areas that you can come in for for entrance.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So your answer is interesting because I feel like it exemplifies a lot of problems that the young people have, where there are so many different entry points and it can feel kind of overwhelming. And I understand what you're saying, that your interest is going to determine, what entry point you'll take. But let's say that you wanted to, I guess, be involved in something related to school children. Maybe it might be, getting kids involved in extracurricular things or being a mentor or any type of like juvenile program or anything like that. Could you like pick up the phone and just like call a court, or do you just like show up at a school and hope they don't, turn you away? Or like what is like the actual process, I guess, for a young person who wants to get plugged in like that?
I would say your first place to go is if you have someone that's in the school system that you know. You might go back to the school you graduated from.
Okay.
We all should know someone at the school where we graduated, and you might go in and talk to the career specialist. You might talk to the intervention specialist that's at your school. That would be a great entry point for you.
Okay. I'm curious because we all think that it's like either the worst generation or the best generation. We're all very much victims of recency. Do you think when people talk about today that kids are politically unengaged or that kids are spoiled or any of the other things they say about Gen Zers or even millennials, do you think that there's anything exceptionally different about young people today in a negative or a positive sense? Or do you think that everybody's just kind of like kids and now social media has changed how we see it? Or yeah, what is your feeling, I guess, for young people today?
I think when I was young, I think my parents said the same things about me.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
I think that engagement looks different to different people. They're more likely to talk to someone that's their age, to engage with online, where in my generation we more engaged one-on-one, face-to-face. So it's a little different type of interaction now that we're not accustomed to as we've gotten older. But the younger generation definitely is engaged. They are looking for avenues for education. They're looking for avenues of news reports, and they may not go to they're not going to a newspaper. They're going to go online. They're going to look for someone that's talking about subjects that are important to them.
Do you feel like there's a particular disengagement that young people have today from the system compared to earlier generations? So something that I hear online a lot is like, don't waste your time voting. Everything is corrupt and rigged. It's not even worth going to the ballot box. Do you think that's unique today? Or do you think young people have always been a little bit disengaged and they kind of grow up and feel differently? Or
I think there has been some changes. When I was growing up, and others were growing up, everyone was expected to be engaged. I don't think there's that same expectation because it's not even taught in school anymore. In a lot of the schools, they don't do civic education. So if you're not trained, not taught, or you live in a household that's not engaged, where do you get that momentum to want to be engaged?
do you did you grow up here in Cincinnati? Have you been here like your whole life?
I grew up in West Virginia.
West Virginia, okay.
Yeah, I grew up in West Virginia. I grew up actually in segregation.
Okay.
Lived on one side, white families lived on the other. So when I look at civic engagement, I look at it totally different than someone that grew up where communities were integrated and people lived together. So I would probably be more engaged from the standpoint of I know the history. But when you don't teach people their history, they're bound to repeat it. So I think history of the civil rights movement, history of the cases that are coming down from the Supreme Court, excuse me, and why they're so important and why they impact them. People don't understand why they're impacted by local government. We often glamorize going out to vote for the president, but we don't understand the impact that local government has.
Something I'm kind of curious about, and I imagine West Virginia is probably similar. I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, and then there are people around here, obviously in Cincinnati, and then over in Cleveland and Columbus. Do you think that for young people, is there a different drive today to go move to the coasts than there was, I guess, when you were growing up? Or do you think it's always been the goal of people like in kind of the Midwest? I guess West Virginia wouldn't count as the Midwest, but like, because I wonder sometimes for younger people, like, do I really care about my city if I know as soon as I turn 22, 23, I'm going to try to move to, New York or LA and get a job or, flee and go do that? Do you think that changes the engagement?
I don't know that young people are moving as frequently as they used to. More young people are living with their parents. They're not renting. They're not getting driver's license. They're not buying cars. I think that they look at work-life balance very differently than the generations before them. They want to make sure that their work-life balance is good. They want to have their needs met, obviously, but they're not as focused and driven on acquisition of wealth as some of the former generations. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because work-life balance is very important to all of us, or should be.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to think. I'm out here. I've got a lot of people that we're trying to mobilize for voting out here, for door knocking to get people registered to vote. When you talk to people that are oh God, there's the A word I'm looking for, where you don't care anymore. You're not antagonistic, you're apathetic.
Apathetic.
Yeah. For people that are apathetic to kind of the system, do you think that, what's your opinion of where that apathy comes from? Is it they've never been engaged? I know you brought that up as a reason before. Are there people that have like a bad experience with the system and they just don't care anymore? Or, yeah, what do you where is your sense that like most of the apathy for voting or the system comes from? Besides,
I think apathy comes from a place of not feeling that what you voted for actually happened. So I think it's incumbent upon us as elected officials to make sure that we go back to our neighborhoods, go back to our communities, that when they want to know, did you keep the promise that you made? I think it's very important that if you're going to make a promise when you're running for an office, that you do what you can to back that up. If you can't, maybe you need to have a town hall and explain to the community why that can't happen. I think uninformed people depend on the people they elected to keep them informed. So they don't know the inner workings. So it's up to you to go back and tell people why it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And if you don't do that, people will become apathetic.
I remember the energy for Bernie Sanders, and in 2008, I had a lot of energy for Ron Paul. Okay, I was younger. It was a conservative leaning, but something that was really hard for me with Ron Paul, and I know it happened for a lot of people with Bernie Sanders, is you first get involved into politics, and then you get super hyped behind one guy, and then, like you said, their guy loses, and
or
the energy, like,
out.
yeah, or pulls out, yeah, and then like it feels like all of the energy dissipates into the wind. How do you think you keep those people re-energized when their first engagement might, yeah?
Yeah, I think part of the problem, we talked about glamorizing elections. Mm-hmm. It's not the candidate, it's the position. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we follow candidates, but we need to know what the position does. A lot of people don't know what the position does. They don't know what the president can do. They don't know what Congress actually does. Actually, they haven't done much. If you look, they have not passed any, they have been the most ineffective Congress that we've ever had in history, haven't passed as many bills, haven't done the things that people actually sent them there to do. And they feel that they have no way to hold them accountable, but the only way that you can hold people accountable when they're in an office is vote them out. So if you don't stay engaged and go back and vote again and try somebody different, they continue to perpetuate the same cycle.
Okay, yeah, I definitely agree. Wait, listen, it's been fun chatting with you. I thought our auction chat was like super fun. I had a lot of interesting judge questions for her, which I thought were really cool. But yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on, Judge Jamison. And yeah, we'll be back in a little bit with a cool and exciting guest. Stay tuned.